Koinant, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And Bonsai greets you as well. Isn't that nice? Now, there's one great truth about this ANC government, and that is that they are never to blame. It's always Jan van Riebeck or the apartheid era or white monopoly capitalism, according to one Julius Malema of the EFF. The truth is somewhat different, though. The reality is somewhat different. And as I've said so many times, the level of incompetence and the level of corruption that goes on at all levels of the ANC government is beyond belief. But of course, that's called black privilege, which is restricted only to the well-connected. And of course, they will never ever be called up before the courts for corruption, will they? No. Not going to happen, guys. Zondo Commission, a complete charade. You know, let's face it. The emperor's got no clothes. We know what's going on. And the other day I talked about South African Airways and the issues relating to the CEO who looks after the maintenance side of South African Airways. And South African Airways is rather like just an example of what happens when you have incompetent people running what used to be a highly profitable state-owned enterprise. But of course, it's only taken 25 years for them to drive it into the ground. So now we hear that the ANC are considering selling off parts of South African Airways. But they've got one big problem, which we need to discuss before I tell you more. And that is that they would have to pay the buyer billions of rands for them to actually take over the organization, because it's that much in debt, net debt over the actual value of the organization. So I don't know how they're going to do that. But let's have a look at what's happening. Portions of South African Airways, or SAA, one of the country's poor-performing state-owned enterprises, will be sold to private companies, the ANC resolved at its National Executive Committee, or NEC, meeting last week. Sowetan understands that the meeting first considered selling SAA in its entirety, but it was agreed that the likelihood of anyone buying it was minimal because of its poor financial state. ANC economic head Enoch Godongwana said, "The person you're going to sell SAA to, you will have to give them money, not them giving you money, which is a loss," which is exactly my point. He said, "It has been mismanaged. I doubt if it owns its fleet. It's probably a leased fleet, so there's no asset. I doubt if it even has that. I mean, I can't vouch for it." ANC Secretary General and one of the most corrupt people in the country, one Ace Magashula, said that the NEC emphasized the need for investment in the country's infrastructure, including SOEs. Now, who in their right mind is going to invest in a country where everything has been stolen through corruption and no one has been charged for those sins? No one. That's why South Africa is literally imploding and investment is skipping, getting out of the country. It ain't rocket science. Anyway, Magashula says, in this regard, public-private partnerships, especially in aviation and energy and other areas, will be critical. And he went on to say it was agreed that the long-standing ANC policy with respect to strategic equity partners in various state-owned companies and consideration will be given to models of worker and social ownership. He's talking BS and he knows it. You know, he's part of the corrupt organization and they're all on the take. And regardless, the National Treasury last month approved a 5.5 billion rand bailout for SAA for the 2019-2020 financial year. In order to break evens, SAA requires a capital of almost 22 billion rand and has so far received just over 10 billion rand in this and last year's financial periods. The uncertainty of the required capital being provided by the government led to the resignation of its CEO, Vuyani Jirana, earlier this year. Now, instead of bearing the costs, the ANC has resolved they would look at international airline carriers to buy a chunk of the debt-laden airline. Gondongwana said, "Yes, we're looking at international. You are not going to change SAA by simply saying you're going to bring someone next door. You need cash, you need skills." You know, what they're actually admitting to is the failure, the complete failure of the ANC to actually govern South Africa. But of course, they're not going to say that. They're never going to admit that. But that's actually underlying what's happened at South African Airways. It's happening all over the country in everything that you can look at, including Eskom, Denel, Transnet. It's just everything is just falling in a big heap because of that issue, the ANC government, and their policies like BEE, which we've talked about so much here. Anyway, Gondongwana went on to say, the conversation would now move to identifying an international airline that is performing well, which could be brought in as a partner. Well, good luck with that. Talking to Soweto on the sidelines of the ANC-NEC report back at Luthuli House in Johannesburg, Godongwana said that unlike Eskom, which provides services to the entire country and plays a critical role in the economy, the decision to sell off part of SAA was not necessarily a difficult one. So here you've got a socialist government that's going to sell off and privatize part of its state-owned enterprises. That goes completely against their social policy, but don't tell them that. Anyway, he went on to say, it's easier because it does not provide the kind of social and public good as others. For instance, if we're looking at Eskom, it provides a vital thing for the economy, electricity. If Eskom collapses, the whole South African economy is down. He said that the partner would be brought in with a vision of making SAA an asset. There's a whole range of things for starters. You try and transform it and bring an experienced partner to transform it into a viable asset, and then you can sell it. Now, I've just got one word of advice for you, ANC, NEC leadership, and that is that if you demand that they go with BEE, you're not going to get a private partner in there. I can guarantee it. They're not going to touch SAA because there's so many highly skilled white people in South Africa right now who are unemployed because they've been kicked out of SAA because of their skin color. And any investor in SAA is going to say, well, hey, I don't want these guys who are incompetent being part of this organization. I want those white skilled people that you kicked out of the organization back. And they'll want someone right at the top who fits that bill. I can guarantee it. It's not rocket science. No investor's going to touch it otherwise. So it's going to be a standoff at the pass. That's what's going to happen. Anyway, Godongwana concluded by saying, you need a reliable company, in my view, somebody who's got cash, a reliable airline, and so on. It would be someone who already owns an airline. The government is also considering merging SAA with another state-owned airline, SA Express. That's not performing well. Well, why are we surprised? I mean, show me one state-owned enterprise in South Africa that is performing well. Just one. Just one. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, stay safe. Bye for now.